I was so pleased with Thomas B's recent video on Medusa in art, fashion, painting, and film, and his reference to a particularly influential book inspired me to offer a response, one that addresses my own personal history with this mythological figure. Feminist was a dirty word by the 1980s. The burgeoning conservative movement on the American political landscape was sprinting through the cultural discourse, upending new power dynamics, including both the women's and the gay rights movements. Feminist was an ugly label, one that got applied to virtually every young woman I knew, usually in response to any challenge to authority or any assertion or attempt at such. Feminist? Might as well call me a bitch, or worse. Growing up in the 1970s, I was aware of the women's liberation movement. I remember Billie Jean versus Bobby, Gloria Steinem, and Ms. Magazine. But by 1980, the pioneers of that movement were reduced in the public lexicon to bra burners. By the late 80s, Gloria Steinem had given way to Naomi Wolf and Camille Paglia, writers I had little interest in reading. I was busy hitting the clubs, listening to live bands, and pursuing my own path in life. I wasn't looking to get revolutionized. It took music to bring the women's movement into my active life and to demystify the feminist label. Courtney Love and Kat Bjelland, with their kinder whore looks and unfiltered barbed tongues, both on stage and off. I credit Courtney with bringing not only the works of Anne Sexton to a pop sensibility, but also the muses of rage that are Medusa, Medea, and Lulu. Rage. That's what we young women of the 80s had missed in the ripples of the movement that passed over us. But give us enough time and enough danger in our own sexual lives, and we too would stand upon our own versions of stages and scream at the top of our lungs and from the depths of our souls. Our rage was loud enough to probably turn a few men to stone. Medusa is not a monster. She is a victim who becomes a victor. She's a call to arms and a reminder to kill the falseness that lies upon our faces when we are disconnected from our power as women. This book, 1991's Angry Women by Research Magazine, capitalized on the resurgence of the Medusa myth in feminism, featuring interviews with a dozen iconoclastic figures of feminine rage: Diamanda Gallis, Karen Finley, Kathy Acker. I bought this book when it was published and read it over the next 2 decades until it literally fell apart in my hands. I absorbed the lessons, and yet there were so many times over those next decades that I laughably tried to play it straight. Times when I put the Medusa and the Medea and the Lulu in me high upon a shelf. Oddly, when I look over my life and I try to parse out when I try to play it straight, it was usually when I literally straightened my wild and curly hair. When I let it go, I felt more free. Medusa-like, my mane coiled like snakes, unfettered by expectations and ruling class structures and the scornful gaze and damaging heat and beauty myths and lies. Free hair, free her.
Take everything I want you to.